Hi, this is Debbie and thank you for joining me today as I take a look at creating a card with a quick and easy winter scene. This design would be great for creating a batch of Christmas cards as there aren't any time-consuming elements, which is the key ingredient at this busy time of year. I'm going to be using the Merry and Bright set from SSS Stamp. Please excuse the ink on my stamp set. I prefer not to clean my stamps after stamping them. I'd rather inky stamps than ones with lint on them and then don't stamp cleanly a second time. Although this Merry and Bright set would make great holiday tags, I'm going to use the snowman and holly leaves as the focal point for this smaller 4-bar sized card. The final card will be 3.5 inches wide by 5 inches tall. I love making smaller cards and find that the size particularly suits cute images. I've stamped the snowman and holly leaves in Intense Black Ink from SSS Stamp on Neenah Silver White card, and now I'm going to colour them with Copics. The colouring required for these two images is minimal, particularly with the snowman, so I kept the colouring really simple. I've sped up the video and I'll play some music while I colour, and I'll be back after the colouring to carry on with the rest of the card. With the colouring finished, I lined up the matching dies and kept them in place with washi tape before running them through my die cutting machine. To create the scene, I'm also going to die cut the Bear Tree Oval Collage die from SSS Stamp from Neenah Silver White card. I'm lining up the die roughly in the middle of the white card. It doesn't have to be perfect as I'm going to die cut around the oval next. The Bear Tree Oval Collage die cuts away the negative shapes to leave an oval opening in the panel of card with a beautiful tree outline. Having removed the negative pieces of this die cut, I'm now lining up the opening squarely on my grid paper and then lining up the middle-sized wonky rectangle die from SSS Stamp. I'm aligning the die offset so there is slightly more space below the oval than above, so this will leave room for the sentiment. I've run it through my die cutting machine and then set aside the pieces so far while I work on the sentiment. I want to white heat emboss the sentiment on a strip of red card, and I want the red to match that of the berries, so I scribbled one of the red markers I used to colour the berries on a scrap of white card. I've placed the card in a mini misty and then prepared it for heat embossing by rubbing it with an EK Success powder tool. The powder tool will help prevent the embossing powder randomly sticking to the card. I've lined one of the sentiments from the Merry and Bright set on the red strip and then stamped it in Clear Embossing Ink before sprinkling with white embossing powder and heat setting. I then trimmed the strip to a skinny banner. I'm going to use a card base I've previously cut and scored from fog card. This card base is currently A2 in size, so I'm using my trimmer to cut the base down until it is 4-bar in size. I like these skeleton style trimmers and recently got a new one from Tonic, as my old one, after many years of use, wasn't cutting as well, and what a difference the new trimmer makes. I do think this scene looks lovely just on the fog card base. You could equally back the white panel with a pattern paper. I think a nice plaid would look really cute. However, I decided to ink blend a background to use behind the panel. I wanted a nice dark blue gradient to represent a dark winter sky and choose a few SSS Stamp dye inks. I used from lightest to darkest, Winter Sky, Caribbean Blue, Deep Sea and Soft Navy. Using a mini round ink blending tool, I blended the inks from the lightest to the darkest and then back down to the lightest. I wasn't worried about getting my ink blending ultra smooth as I knew I wanted to add lots of splatter on top, and this would hide any imperfections. I also ink blended a larger piece of card than I needed, so that I had some to choose as to which piece of the panel to use. To dress up the ink blending, I'm using a solution of Perfect Pearls to splatter sparkling mixture over the panel. I mix a scoop of Perfect Pearls powder in a mini mister and give it a good shake before using the tube from the inside of the mister to splatter the solution onto the card. This adds a nice subtle sparkle to the background, but I want some white splatter to add more contrast and represent snow falling. My favourite way to do this is to splatter white gouache. I add a smidge of Winsor & Newton white gouache to an acrylic block and mixed it with a little water. I then took a brush and flicked the mixture off the acrylic block. I've seen Christina Werner do this to get a nice control over the splatter. However, I found I did get some splatter that exploded off the block rather, Perhaps I was flicking it too fast. And so I just picked up the mixture with my brush and splattered the paint by tapping the brush to release the splatters. I used my heat gun to make sure the paint was fully dry before trimming the panel so that it was just slightly smaller than my white piece. I added lots of foam adhesive to the back of the panel and then carefully adhered it to the ink blended background. In turn, I added foam adhesive to the back of the background panel and then added this to the fog card base. I do love dimension and so added foam adhesive to the back of the other elements before popping them on the card. As there are various levels to the background, the blue ink background sits lower than the white front layer, then I needed a double layer of foam adhesive on the back of the pieces to account for where they attach to the background rather than the white piece. I added the holly sprig with more foam adhesive and then the sentiment strip. One tip is to use a T-square ruler to ensure you have aligned the sentiment straight on your card. I then added a trio of snowfall sequins from Neat and Tangled and kept them in place with Range Multi-Medium Matte. I also dressed up the holly with a shiny layer of glossy accents for the berries and a coating of clear Winkor Stella to add sparkle to the leaves. Finally, I added white gel pen dots to the rosy cheeks of the snowman, and that completes my card with a quick and easy winter scene. I'll leave links in the YouTube description below to the products that I've used today, as well as a link to the coordinating blog post over at limedoodledesign.com. I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you've enjoyed this tutorial, I'd be delighted if you'd subscribe to this channel. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.